getting spring fever probably. And so let me welcome you today. We're going to be talking today in this webinar about the art of transformational change. And so you've probably been reading about this in some of the journals and different things. All the many organizations have kind of caught on to the project management mindset like what we all have. And they're not just running projects, though. They're looking at it through the eyes of how can I change my organization and turn it into something different than what I have right now. And they're driving all of those changes using projects. And so that's going to be the thrust of what we're going to be talking about today. And so the art of transformational change using projects for guiding organizations through transformations. And so I like this idea, not it's just been happening in the last few years, but I like the idea because project management is really pretty efficient for making change. And so we do it all the time with a singular project inside an organization to produce a product or produce a certain type of service or result. But the idea of being able to change the organization, and so in other words, if we were changing processes for part of our organization, that would be a process project. If we were changing the product or upping the quality in another section and changing how we did business, that could actually be another type of project as we're going after new customers or new customer base or something like that. So that's the thrust of what we're looking at today. So let me give you some foundational information on this. I've got this a little heavy for you, and I did it on purpose so that you'd be able to have kind of a complete package here of knowledge as we're talking about this. So let's start off talking about changing the organization with projects so that you're using project management to drive these changes. So in sketching this out, this is what I came up with basically in trying to decide how to teach this. So you've got strategic plan, new visions, or a crisis happening with your organization. And so that's going to cause and create certain types of change. And strategic plan, we want to go in a certain direction. New vision, we've got a brand new opportunity out here, or we're going through crisis and we've got to put out the fire. So you got a lot of those types of things that are driving our organization towards change. Create details on the future state, and so you're looking at what and where we're trying to get the organization to go to, and all of that funnels down into the other components. And so the strategic plan, new vision, and crisis funnels down to creating a program plan and determine the number of projects it's going to take to drive that strategic plan, that new vision, or that crisis to overcome that crisis. And over on create details on the future state, creating business cases for each of the projects. Now, a project management component of this would run the same. You would just have a series of projects all driving a different piece of that organizational transformation. And of course, the business case would justify the return on investment for the projects. And then, of course, your charters would actually give the approval for the project. Approval, give appoint a project manager and give a budget to that. And then, of course, you would then determine what part of the change each project's going to accomplish. And so it allows you to be able to have it in containment to be able to transform your organization through that. So as you do this, one of the things I think that's so interesting about this is that it really does give you a lot of control. Especially if you're running on the traditional projects or waterfall, it's going to give you an awful lot of control in that area. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So you're creating the future state for change. Most of our organizations are going through change, some more radical than others. And so the thing is that a lot of times people think, well, I just want to stay stagnant right where we are, or I just want to stay where we are even if it's not stagnant. But that's not really true. Technology, even if nothing else is happening, technology is driving some of those changes. So let's take a look here at our current state. So the current state that we're in could have confusion, fear, lack of trust, unknown ambiguity. We can have a lot of different things in the current state. Now, obviously, if the current state's doing awesome, then there's no real reason to change unless you're seeing enough opportunity in the future to be able to make that adjustment. But then you'll notice here on the graphic that when we start talking about the transition over to the future state, the transition's in red. The transition is kind of clumsy here. And the reason is because that feels, all this going through the transition feels bad to us because because you're not really at the future state, but you're not really at the current state or the old state. So you're going through that transition period, and that's a yuck kind of feeling for most people. And so questions, unbelief, frustration, doubt, are we going to make it? Are we doing the right thing? Are we going in the right direction? All of those are very common in this type of setting. And then the next, when you move on over into the future state, this is where all of a sudden you get excited, because that excitement, confidence, praise, because now we're where we thought we wanted to be. And of course, now that you're over here, that future state now becomes that current state. And so that's change management 101, and when we're talking about changing within an organization. And so what you're looking at is now that becomes the future state, and now you're looking at what the next range of opportunities will be. And we do it through series of projects. So you've got small projects working possibly through every one of these pieces to lead us over here to the future state. Each project would have a definitive deliverable, and then of course what you're doing by the time you finish, you're over in the future state where you're wanting to be, and you have shifted that organization there. Now the thing is that you're hoping you're where you want your organization to be, because of when you're looking at technology, and of course now AI is coming into the scene. A lot of different pieces are driving our organizations in some directions that we maybe have not thought about. All right, so let's look at the three sides of organizational change. Change in an organization is a little bit more complex than just change in a project. Change in a project could be a product or a service or some type of feature that we want changed, and there's not anything wrong with that. That's part of a project. When we're talking about an organization, you are looking at a ripple effect. Due to one change over here can have a ripple effect over here. And so you're looking at, when you're looking at the organizational transformation project, maybe as a whole, you've got change, you've got projects, and then you're verifying that the transformation is really going to be something that's going to be better for your organization. And so you've got three sides of the organizational transformation. The change itself, getting it going, because you've got to break it free from where it was. You've got to then work through a series of projects to get it in the direction you want it to go. And then over here at the completion, you then are evaluating the transformation. Did we take it far enough, or did we not take it far enough? Did we take it too far? And so you're looking to see now, is that transformation really going to work the way you want it to work? You'll see a lot of organizations for a lot of different reasons do this, and that transformation might not be where they really need to be. It might not help at all. You see this with a lot of your big companies over the years that have actually gone under, and so they've had a lot of change and a lot of transformation, but the problem was that transformation was either too late or the wrong transformation, and so the company or the organization was still vulnerable. All right, so we look at change. It's a process, helps organizations move from the current state to a desired future state. It should be calculated, supportive, and adapted to reduce the disruption and maximize success. So when we're looking at change, we're not doing change for change's sake. Oh my goodness, don't do that. That's not going to accomplish anything. That's just disrupting everything. So you're wanting that change to be very calculated. And then the projects are going to play the key role, because each project will have a definite deliverable at the end. And so those projects can be planned, controlled as you make that transition. And then the transformation focuses on creating significant change, new products, new technology, new growth of the organization. And so what you're trying to do is anticipate, reposition that organization. And so you're looking at, where will technology be in 5 years? Where will our industry be in 5 years? What's going to happen to everything? And so that changes the whole dynamics. Here in Missouri, when I get up early in the morning, they have a farm report, because we have a lot of farmers and a lot of agriculture. And it's interesting hearing them make projections about corn and soybeans and all of these kind of things. And they'll talk about cattle, because, we don't think about that a whole lot. We just go and buy what we're wanting to eat at the grocery store. But man, these men and women who have these farms and cattle farms and all these crops, I mean, they're hanging on every word, looking at trying to make some projections on what's going to happen with whether they're raising soybeans, or whether they're going to be raising corn, or whether they're, what's going to happen with their pigs, what's going to happen with cows, and what's going to happen with all those prices. And so they're always trying to project out so that they've planted the right crop for the right time. And so it's really, you can see the difficulty there. Well, a company does the same thing. What are the new basic customers going to be that you're going to have? All right, so let's look at some processes in using project management for transformative change. First off, let's look at the key processes that are going to be there. First is preparing for the change. Change is not going to just happen. We have to prepare for it. So we're looking at the need, developing a vision for that change, and who are the stakeholders that I need working on this. Then when you get ready to move away from that and working with your stakeholders, you're now planning the actual change. What's the strategy for how the change will be implemented? What resources am I going to need? And how will success be measured? We've made a lot of changes, moved a lot of people around, but we maybe did nothing for success. We maybe made no significant difference, but we've had a lot of chaos, but that chaos does not mean that we've done something good. And then you're executing that change through a series of projects. So you're implementing the change through projects managed carefully to ensure that the desired outcome is actually being met in each of these situations. You're communicating the change, clear communication, what's happening. And so for those of you who are running multiple projects, or for those of you who are at a program level and you're doing this in real life with multiple projects, you're probably one of the kingpins for communication of what's happening, especially if any of these projects feed into the other project. You're probably the one of the main ones who's having to communicate this. And so you're trying to support the change by providing training, resources, kind of upskilling your people. You're also reviewing and adjusting because no plan is perfect. And so after the change, you're monitoring its success and you're making adjustments because some of these steps that we're taking might not be as exactly the way we want it to be. We maybe need to adjust it a little bit, or maybe the technology has changed by the time we get the change implemented. Then you're looking at the wheel of change. This is actually put out by Schuhart and Deming and Goldsmith, and I thought this was really good. This really hits what we're talking about. They have a wheel of change, and you'll notice that they start looking at investing, improving, maintaining, making peace, delaying, reducing, extricating, and then adding. And of course, you continue to go all around. So some of this you're creating, some of this you're preserving, some of this you're accepting, some of this you're eliminating. And when you think about change, those of you who've been on some change projects of processes or re-engineering your organization or any of these type of things, you notice those steps are pretty clear. You start creating some things that are brand new. You're preserving some things that you don't want to change. Those are anchored. You're accepting some things that are going to have to be accepted. Maybe it's being pushed upon you by the industry, and then you're eliminating some things. We don't need those anymore. Our technology is going to take care of some of that, and this is going to be different. And so when we go through that wheel of change, here's the thing. You might think, well, I like change. We like change as long as it's not us. And so as long as we can push that change to somebody else. But if it's change that's impacting us, sometimes we don't do so good with all the chaos associated with it. All right, so let's talk about understanding how projects influence the organizational change management. So first off, definition of organizational change management. OCM is a term that's being used pretty significantly for organizational change management. It involves structured approaches to transitioning individuals, teams, and organizations from a current state to a desired future state. So let's take one initiative. Those of you who've been on here for the last several months, you know that I've been talking about artificial intelligence. We wrote a multi-day program on this. And artificial intelligence, I'm reading everything I can to see what the projections are for this with our business world. And this is going to be a significant life changer for how we do business. And so you might think it's just a fad. I don't believe it's a fad. I believe this is a significant life changer to how you and I do business. I think it's going to be a significant, and almost everybody that's out here believes it's going to be as significant as getting internet, and before internet and getting internet. And so this is going to be another one of those big paradigm shifts in business. So that's the reason why when we talk about transformative change like this, you will probably, in all likelihood, be using some of these steps when you're talking about implementing AI. It's going to change our viewpoint of how and what we do in so many cases. And it's not perfect because it's still evolving in some of these cases. So some of the roles of the projects when we look at OCM, so you're looking at they serve as vehicles for implementing change, introducing new processes, technologies, or organizational structures. And so we don't even know in some cases what those new processes are going to be, how we're going to utilize some of these tools. Tools are coming out, people are experimenting with it, the technology is growing and expanding like crazy. In 12 months, it's just amazing what the difference is. And so you see it on all the Facebook, you see it on all social media. And so that technology that's coming there, we've got to be able to nail it down to where we're protecting what it does and doesn't do. But the point is, you're not going to stop that from growing and expanding and be a business, be in business today. If I was in business today and I didn't have a web page and I didn't have email and I didn't have those types of technology, first off, we wouldn't be doing this for sure. But think about what that would mean to where we're thinking, oh no, I'm going to keep my business just the way it was. Of course not. You can't do that. And especially with all the way the technology is going to go. And so that's the reason why I wanted to talk about this particular topic. All right, so let's move into the relationship between project management and change management, integration of disciplines. That's what we are seeing happen, is that we're starting to say, okay, my organization has to have sweeping changes. We're going to do it through a series of projects for control. People who are just doing sweeping changes on a wing and a prayer, those folks have a tendency to lose their jobs because it gets too chaotic and we're not making good decisions as we do this. So you don't have to do projects, but it's a good way to consider how are we going to shift from over here to over here with that company. So integration of disciplines, combining project management, focuses on tasks, timelines, all the things that we like about control. And then you have mutual influence. You've got management who can look at this. You've got people on the team who have expertise. You might even have outside consultants. So effective change management can increase the likelihood of project success, addressing resistance, fostering stakeholder engagement. And so that allows us to be able to deal resistance in a good way. I'm talking about a wholesome way, not just a battle of the wills. That doesn't seem to go over very well. Impact of projects on the organizational change. Initiating change. Projects often act as catalysts for change, prompting organizations to adapt to new market demands or technological advances. And so I'm going at it from the direction of AI would be your technological advance. Now, here's the thing. There's going to be so many other technologies that's going to springboard off of that is just unbelievable. And so those of you who are doing stuff in the healthcare world, you already know what I'm talking about. I mean, healthcare organizations are scrambling, trying to get some type of connection to AI and the technology to be able to help them be able to do more with less and for it to be economical. Implementing the change through projects, organizations can systematically introduce and integrate change into their operation. And the reason why people like projects is, once again, we talked about control, but it's controlled, it's planned control. In other words, we're making that shift. We can communicate to everybody, the processes are changing and we're doing it differently. It allows us an opportunity to be able to make adjustments as we do it. You're doing it in a strategic manner, making those steps. And then you can sustain the change. So post-project activities ensure that changes are embedded in the organizational culture and the practices. Now, here's the cool thing about this is that the ripple effect of this too means that we're going to have to upskill. We're going to need elements of training to understand and know how to use some of the new technology that's going to be out and how to make some of the adjustments for some of this. It will cause us to look at things differently. So let's look at the impact of organizational change on roles and responsibilities. Well, we get new technology in, we might not have the exact same roles and responsibilities we currently do now. So it could be a redefinition of job roles. Now, you've heard all the hype of people scared to death that AI is going to take everybody's job. I don't see that. I think it will change our jobs, though. I don't think it's going to take our job, or if it does, it will be the lower caliber jobs that it can do. It might help in customer service. I'm already seeing that. But, the chatbots are not perfect, even on customer service. If you've talked to them, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm sure it could take some of those jobs. But I think that the bigger thing is that it's going to be that augmentation where we're utilizing technology in our day-to-day stuff. That's going to be it. We do things differently because of the technology. Role ambiguity, employee uncertainty, obviously all of that stuff could be there for sure. If I'm not willing to be trained in some of of the new stuff, if I'm so petrified of artificial intelligence or anything like that, that I'm not willing to be trained, that could change the whole dynamics, no doubt. Resistance to change, we've seen before. Necessity for continuous learning. If you're not someone who wants to learn, and there are people who, I don't want to learn anything, I know all I need to know, and I'm just, I've got 3 years to retirement, and don't mess with me. Okay, that's fine. But the thing is that continuous learning, for those of you who are in the heart of your career, obviously you've had to learn, and you're going to have to learn. That is part of our culture now. And then strategic human resource planning, importance of change management roles. What role am I playing? Am I a change agent? Because once again, you're looking at driving change and working with people to go through change and get them from one spot to the next. And that's going to take a lot of encouragement. And can we do it without being a jerk about it? And can we do it by encouragement? And the answer is yes, we can be. People can make changes, but a lot of times they're cautious, and a lot of companies are going to be cautious with this. The role of a consultant or the role of an internal team member is going to be encouraging, being upbeat, being positive, and you're looking for what have we missed on these plans. So redefinition of job roles. Organizational change often leads to redefining job roles to align with new objectives. And so I think it's going to change how we do business. And so not bad, it's just going to be different. And so the redefinition can involve job enlargement, employees take on additional tasks, or job enrichment, increasing the depth of responsibility. I think it could be any of those. Employees must adapt to the new expectations and competencies. Think about it. Today, most people don't walk around and look for a job the way we did 20 years ago. Today, you've got your social media with LinkedIn that people will go to and download a resume, or you're going to email a resume, or you're going to go to a job fair and email a resume. I mean, the way we deal with getting a job today is so different than what it was even years ago. And so that's part of that evolution we're talking about. Not bad, just different. It's just different. Role ambiguity. Sure, there's going to be some role ambiguity, and there'll be some positions that will probably be new. I don't know how many data scientists you have, but there probably will be data scientists within many organizations to help with some of this. Your data people are going to be even more important, because artificial intelligence pulls off of that data. So employees have to be clear about their responsibility to avoid confusion, reduce productivity. Also, uncertainty reduces job performance, increases uncertainty about remaining as an employee. And so once again, there's not really going to be any place that we go that we're not being influenced by the technology. The technology boom is expected to take off like crazy, and it is taking off like crazy. All right, so what about the resistance to change? I don't want to change. Well, we sometimes like change. Sometimes the change is really pretty cool. All the video and all the virtual stuff, I mean, about 95% of what we're doing today is virtual. So me standing in front of you live is only about 5% of my time, where before COVID, it was 95% standing in a office building, training people live every day, and 5% was online. And so you have seen that happen in 5 years, with them talking about COVID being 5 years ago. So resistance can hinder the implementation of organizational change, negatively impact overall performance, because once again, if I'm resistant, I'm not learning, and so I'm kind of dormant. I'm not moving. And so sometimes engaging employees in change process will decrease this, but I want to know, why are they not interested in changing? I'd like to have them on the team, because if we can fix that, you're going to pick up a lot of people who are kind of resistant to that change. Necessity for continuous learning. This is exciting, especially in AI. AI is going to be a great tool to be able to get to customize training for your people. If you're already playing with this, then you already know what I'm talking about. You have the capability of learning about so many different things in a matter of moments, and it's customized to what you're wanting to learn. And so organizational change requires workers to learn new skills, different competencies. The worker you are today, think back, if you've been in the marketplace or in the workplace for 10 years, are your skills different today than they were 10 years ago? Let's go another 5. If you've been in there 15, is it different than 15 years ago? And the answer to all of these is yes. And guess what? Let's go 5 years in the future. You think your skills are going to be different in next 5 years, the way everything's growing with all that we're hearing? Of course it's going to be. And so it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's going to be an exciting thing for you. And so can we embrace and those type of things and have that mindset of continuous learning? Strategic human resource planning. Even the whole mindset of strategic human resource planning has changed. Think of how many organizations you had employees that were in one building all the time, and that's where they worked. And if your organization is doing any remote work with anybody, any place, you can see how people are looking at things differently. So change to the organizational goals, their objectives. State of Kansas, I mean, they have project managers around the country doing their projects remotely. That they have adapted that culture. And so for a state to do it, I just think that's a fascinating shift. And not everybody, they still have people in Topeka, obviously, but that mindset of being able to hire some people around the country who are doing their job remotely. And you're seeing that happen. So defining and assigning specific change management roles helps everyone understand the new direction, skills, and maintaining productivity. And so this goes back to role assignment in that project. We all have different roles when we're running a project. And so that's not that uncommon for us to do that. Importance of change management roles. You want to be able to have people who can facilitate the transitions, reduce employee resistance, talking through, explaining, not just because it's a plan or not just because we say we need to do it, but some people are going to have some other questions. They want to understand how this is going to work. Enhancing employee engagement, morale, ensuring alignment with the organizational goals, supporting continuous learning, development, improving adaptability, innovation. All of these components are going to require a lot of input from everybody sitting there on the team. And so your team that's helping with this transition has to be a group that's on board and supporting it for the most part because of what you're trying to do. All right, let's look at developing strategies for overcoming some of the resistance. Well, there's going to be resistance. First off, not everybody is going to be on board, so don't mistake this. There's no silver bullet to have 100% in most cases, but effective communication is going to help the most, and be transparent in what we're doing and saying. So explaining the reason for the change, focusing on the transparency is going to be huge to where people feel that they can ask the why and how stuff of us. And so we can tell them, this is what we understand, this is why we're doing it, and it's not perfect, okay? Here's the thing, this is not going to be a perfect plan. There's no such thing. Just like there's no perfect leader, there's no perfect projects, there's no perfect plan out here. All of them are going to have a hiccup here or there. So consider giving regular updates, open discussions, and you know what? You talk through the issues, whatever that issue is, whatever that hiccup is, so that we can come up with what we're going to do. Employee involvement is going to be the key. You have a view from your level. So let's say you're management, or let's say you're an executive. Of course you've got a view. Yeah, of course you have authority in so many areas. But those frontline people are going to be a wealth of information on how to make some of these adjustments. They maybe have already been thinking about how to renovate some of these things that we're bringing to them. Now they've just got the power and the authority to do it. So use employees in the change planning process, and they can breed commitment, confidence into this, and participative decision making. We talk about it. We bounce ideas around. What's the next steps? And that allows you an opportunity to be able to come up with a better solution by using the people with you. Leadership and role modeling. What type of leadership? If you're changing to where this is going to be more participative, you want to make sure you're listening to your people more. So leadership must model clarity and transparency through the change, showing the proper behavior, proper attitude. And so if everything is just do it because I say so, that's going to be the wrong attitude as you're making these changes, especially if you're wanting team involvement, because people will clam up and they'll let you make whatever change you want. But the problem is it might not be the best change. They could see cracks in it, and if we're open and we're open to hearing them, they can share some of that. Addressing individual concerns. There are going to be some legitimate concerns, and be thankful people have brought those up. Some employees are still going to be resistant. Also, adjusting their approach to focus on specific concerns can personalize that intervention. And so some of the folks, talking to them and making sure you understand why are they resistant, what's going on, why are they not open to these changes, and looking to make sure that we have an alternative to be able to counteract some of what it is. Some of their ideas might actually not be bad. That might actually be something that's very innovative compared to what we've thought about. We've all heard of groupthink, where we influence each other and we all get on the same page. That can happen in this real easily. So this person might be a wealth of information for you because they're saying you haven't planned this in, you haven't looked at this. And so to bring that in would be very beneficial. Establishing quick wins and celebrating successes. This is always a good motivation builder. And so the faster and the better that we can bring some of this together, the better it's going to happen. When success breeds success. It's amazing how you'll have people jump on board. Many of you know my story that when I started doing projects, I was a pastor and we were building churches or remodeling churches or raising money to pay off churches. And then I went through a divorce, and in the Baptist circles, a divorced pastor is not worth much. And so I went in the business world. But the thing I wanted to tell you was when we would bring up to talk about building a church or remodeling a church or something, I always had people who were negative about it. And so I spent time with them, why are you negative? What is it? Now, let me say this. After we had built the church, after we're paying the church off or paid the church off, these folks were some of the biggest band wavers there was. Yeah, I'm glad we did this. We should have done this years ago. And you're thinking, you were the biggest blocker in this thing the whole time, because now success breeds success. Now they're on the bandwagon of success. What a great thing that we did. But yeah, you remember that they were very negative about it. So they celebrate and they get on that side, sometimes a little late, even in church, sometimes a little late. So next, let's talk about that supportive culture. Supportive organizational cultures allow the employee to adjust to the news and announcement of the change. This is a clumsy thing because people wonder, how is this going to affect them? And they wonder, is this going to do something to their job? And of course, the thing is, that's why you're going to be transparent in some of this. So supportive cultures reinforce the right behavior in a culture of change, getting people to change. Now, I will tell you that it does seem like baby boomers have systematically been harder to get to change, but many of your organizations are minimal on baby boomers at this stage, based on their age, unless they're just wanting to work longer. There's not as many baby boomers. And so when you're talking about Gen Xers and you're talking about millennials, and then you got Z, most of those groups have different mindsets on change. Many are going to be much more open to change. Your millennials typically, based on the surveys, that they typically are very open to change if it makes sense. So that's what you're trying to do, is talk about it and allow it to make sense to the people that's going to be there. Now, let's talk about communicating effectively during the transformation. This sometimes is where it falls apart. We have a tendency not to share the information because we don't want to share wrong information. So communicating means a lot of different things. So basic strategic planning model, explaining what we're doing. Issue-based and goal-based models might be a model we're using. Alignment model, scenario analysis, SWOT analysis you're familiar with. A balanced scorecard is a way of being able to check and measure success. A disruptive innovation framework. All of these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about with this. So let's go into this. So the basic strategic planning model, this begins with strategic plan and steps to reach the vision, mission, objectives. We all have been exposed to this. This is traditional mainstream organization, especially if you're in a formal organization. Issue-based or goal-based model might be a little new to you, but you've done some of this, I bet. It moves deeper into the strategic plan by focusing on major issues or goals with clear action plans. So this strategic plan sees this opportunity, and so we've made changes in this one area so that we could connect with that opportunity. And so you maybe didn't call it issue-based or goal-based, but that's what it was. The alignment model, internal operations are in harmony with strategic plan. So this is where the strategic plan is here, but some of our lower plans maybe have gotten off track. And so the initiative now is to bring everything right under the umbrella of that strategic plan. And of course, in project management, you've seen this happen as well, because every project we should be running should be driving some type of strategic initiative. And so PMI has even promoted that over the last several years as well, looking for alignment. So my project is driving a part of a program, which is driving part of a portfolio, which is ultimately driving part of a strategic plan. And then scenario analysis looks for government, technological, demographic changes that impact business. And so you're looking at a scenario to have happen. And so this might actually be where you see you're already working on your AI stuff, to where you're thinking, based on this scenario happening with this new technology, what's it going to do to our industry? You see healthcare doing it because they're looking at a faster, cheaper way to be able to find and diagnose certain things. And they're having some phenomenal success with this. And then your SWOT SWOT, we've dealt with SWOT for a long time, even in our projects. Strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. Allows us to look at everything with a very fast type of framework and do a fast analysis, and then break it apart for more research later. And then your balanced scorecard, if you're not familiar with this, the two professors from Harvard, Kaplan and Norton, involve strategic planning and management systems, but the balanced scorecard allows you an opportunity to be able to score, and it gives you a real heavy metric. And so if you've not read that or looked at that, that might be overkill for some of your situations, but it does have some components in there that are really, really good, and you might even have to back it down in some cases. And then the disruptive innovation framework focuses on how smaller companies with less challenge, bigger businesses with lower price and disruptive existing players. And so what you're looking at is, can I be a small company but challenge some of these? This is what you've seen happen with Amazon. Amazon challenged the book world. Amazon now has challenged the entire world because of their capability for people to order a product and get it there. And so, but who would have ever thought years ago when Amazon started and they started offering books and people started purchasing books primarily, that it would have that kind of impact across the industry, to where all of your brick and mortar stores have really had to compete to be able to come against Amazon. And of course, everything now is on Amazon. All right, let's look at measuring success in change initiatives. So we've got to have a metric, and so that we know how we're doing. So measurement for success: adoption rate, employee engagement levels, process compliance rating, performance metrics. All of these are going to be some of the components we've got to look at. So let's look at adoption rate. This might be a new phrase for you, hopefully not, but it measures the proportion of employees who embrace and utilize new processes or systems introduced during a change initiative. So in other words, how many people that work for you are on board with this? The metric reflects the extent of acceptance and integration of the change within the organization. So in other words, if you have 10 employees and all but 2 are really on board with this, then that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that particular piece right there. And so how can I get those other 2 on board? Can I do additional training? What is it about the change that they think is going to happen that we need to talk about? And then sample calculation. The calculations were kind of interesting to me, and so I gave you some calculations that's out there. And so assume a new project management software is implemented for a department comprising 100 employees. After a specified period, 75 employees are actively using the software. And so the adoption rate was the number of employees using the new system divided by the total number of employees. And so they had a calculation for it, because folks who love math, you got to have math in there, okay? But this one makes sense, though. What you're seeing is 75 out of 100 have adopted this and are using this. And then you look at, okay, what do these other 25 need? Do they need specialized training? Do we need to give them additional coaching, encouragement, mentoring to be able to get this in? Do we need another type of program to help get them on board? And so you start thinking about that. So 75 of the 100, you didn't have to do that. The other piece, and this is how it all fleshed out here with the adoption rate: 75% divided by 100, and so you had 75% who adoption rate, because those 75 jumped on board. But here's the caution: you don't want to rule those other 25 out, because that other 25% are still good workers for you. That doesn't mean that they're bad workers, but it does mean that your program or your adoption rate of what you had did not meet the 25%. So there could be a lot of different reasons, and they could be some great employees. So don't just think, well, those 75 are good, forget them. No, they're good employees. What's our next level of training or ability to get them to adopt this new software with this example? All right, employee engagement levels. They assess the degree of staff involvement, commitment, and morale during the transition period. So morale is a lot of importance, and many of you who've been working, who supervise people, you know what I'm talking about. 1 or 2 people who are not, who have low morale can actually contaminate 20 people around them, because everything's negative. Things are going wrong. If you think it's bad now, just wait. It's going to get worse. I mean, if you've been around that person, it's like poke me in the eye. I can't get around them anymore, because you're tired of pumping them up. So high engagement often correlates with a smoother change, because they're on board. They're seeing it in pieces as you go across, and so they typically are going to be a little bit more positive about it. Sample calculation for employee engagement. Engagement can be evaluated using surveys, Likert scale. If you're not familiar with that term, that's that 1 to 5 ranking that we give everything. If you've been to a restaurant and done a restaurant survey, you have used a Likert scale. What on a scale of 1 to 5? What about cleanliness? What about taste? What about friendliness? And so you did a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 5. And so you'll find that those have some advantage to be able to do some of these. And what you're doing is taking a qualitative situation and giving it some type of numerical number so that you can see, are we getting better or are we getting worse? And so that allows you to do that. The engagement levels, and of course, this gives you the calculation as well. Average score divided by the maximum possible score times 100, and so 84%. You're scoring 84 on customer service, or you're scoring 84% on taste for the food at that restaurant, or cleanliness at that restaurant. And so it allows you to be able to see, wow, 84, I would have thought we were a little higher than that. I thought we had better food than that, or I thought we had better customer service than that. So it just allows you to take something quantitative and get it numerically going in that direction. Process compliance rating. The process compliance rating evaluates how well employees adhere to new procedures and policies established during the change initiative. So you know that if you make changes, the processes typically are going to be adjusted a little bit. So you're wanting your people to be able to leave the old processes and steps that they've been following and follow the new. And so high compliance indicates effective training and clear communication of expectations. Years ago, I went to an organization to speak, and they had just put in all the security at all the doors, and so you had to scan everything. Of course, I'm there all week as a consultant. I'm getting there super early, and so I'm standing down at the front door forever before the guards get there, and they start letting people through. And of course, you're patted down, and the whole deal. It's a top secret building, okay? And so on the second day that I was there, I'm sorry, let me back up. The first week I was there, that's what happened. On my next trip that I went up there, started doing the same thing, and one of the guys came down, and he said, listen, he said, you get here so early. He said, if you come around to the back door, it's unlocked. And he said, there's nobody there. And he said, just come on up. And he said, come on up the elevator and we'll let you into the office. And so I'm thinking, okay, so on the front of this building, you've got all this security, massive security. They're patting you down, walking you through metal detectors. You have to have the right cards for everything. And then you circumvent the whole thing by getting there at 7 o'clock in the morning and coming in the back door, because the back door is unlocked and they don't have a guard there. So you just start realizing what's wrong with this. There's no compliance at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then there's heavy compliance from 7:30 on. And so that's what we're talking about. You're not wanting that. You don't want a door open for somebody to come walking in for something like that. All right, so the calculations for this was, suppose you have 50 critical process steps that employees must follow, and an audit reveals 45 are being correctly adhered to. And so they're showing you how to calculate that. So 45 of these were following, those other 5 were not. And so this gives you the calculation, 45 divided by 50 means you've got a 90% compliance rate. Well, depending on what this is and what you're trying to do, you probably don't want this. You probably want 100%. All right, let's talk about the performance metrics. This will be a little more common to you probably. So performance metrics monitor changes in productivity, quality, and efficiency before and after the implementation of change initiatives. These metrics help determine the impact of changes on the organizational performance. Now, one of the most common here that all of you know about already is time. How long it takes for us to build a product, or how long does it take for a service to go from starting point to the end? And so if we've changed our processes and we've changed our steps to get to the end, you're hopefully doing something faster, and you're hopefully doing something maybe even with a higher quality. And so that's what you're looking for. You're not wanting something to have bogged the process down to where it takes longer or it's less quality. You would not want any of those things to happen. And so here you might look at a lot of different things. So before the change, units produced 1,000. After the change, we could produce 1,200 in the same length of time. Hours worked, 500 hours to produce that 1,000. After change, 480. So what you've done is you've made your organization a little bit more efficient by making some of those comparisons. And so your productivity before the change, so units produced divided by the hours worked. And so just showing you an example here, so you had 1,000 divided by 500, 2 units an hour. And then after we made the change, we had 1,200 divided by 480, so it was 2.5 units per hour. So you are more efficient after you've done those changes with those processes. And so you're starting to see where organizations are doing this. Chick-fil-A, if you like Chick-fil-A, I've eaten there a handful of times, but I'm more fascinated with that they have taken the quality processes and they have turned that organization to be very efficient from a process standpoint. Double lanes pulling in, double people out on the curbs taking the orders to give them as much lead time inside. And so, I mean, they have really done a lot of things for process efficiency. Now, here's what I'm getting at here. Though that's fascinating to have done that in a restaurant, okay, for a fast food restaurant. You've got coffee shops who have stolen the idea. They are basically a coffee shop like Chick-fil-A. They're doing everything like Chick-fil-A, and so they've taken those same processes and turned it into success for your coffee shops. And so we've got a couple here in Springfield. You think it's a Chick-fil-A, but they're selling coffee, double lines, people taking the orders out there just for efficiency. So they stole it. They stole it from someone else, and they're using it in their industry. Why? They didn't have to reinvent the wheel. All right, so productivity improvement equals productivity after and minus the productivity before. And so you're looking to see, are we more productive or less productive? This 25% involvement in productivity indicates that the process change has positively impacted team efficiency. And so all I'm trying to do is just give you some samples of how we can calculate some of this and bring it in. There's a couple of texts, and so if those of you are actually doing this and you're wanting some text that will help you in coming up with some of the metrics, you send me an email and I'll send you the names of a couple of books that we have used and with some of our clients on some of these things that have really turned out to be pretty good. They're not very expensive at all, and I'll give you 2 or 3 books on creating those metrics for some of these hard to create places. All right, so let's talk about some of the challenges real quick here of using projects for transformative change. First off, it might be something brand new to you. You've never thought about using multiple projects to create change within the organization. That's okay. So resistance to change, people often resist change because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Well, the truth is it does. How's it going to impact their job? What are they going to do? How are they going to do it? All those. Could be a lack of clear vision. Without a clear understanding of why the change. The why is important because if not, then people will think, well, this isn't going to be any different than the change that happened 4 years ago. And then we went right back to the way things were going. So you're not wanting that kind of publicity or that kind of verbiage being told. You want people to be on board. Poor communication always hurts these situations. Most of the time, that's the reason why 85% of all projects fail because of poor communication. When people are asking a survey what caused that project to fail, they'll say communication was bad. So if people aren't informed or don't understand why change is happening, then they struggle with it and they delay their decisions because they're not on board with the newest knowledge. And you and I have done that too. We see that as well. We want the newest knowledge and what's going on. You might even feel like you're almost over communicating sometimes because you're having a meeting, you're going back through, but that would even be better than not communicating enough to the people. Insufficient resources. Most of you are running skeleton crews. As I look across all the people who've signed in, many of you are running skeleton crews at your organization, and I get it. You're trying to be efficient with that. But insufficient resources, change requires new tools, training, and time, and all of that's on top of everything else we're trying to do. So it's really important for us to make sure that we've got enough people to be able to run this change. This type of project is very time consuming. And if you have a hiccup because something's wrong, you're wanting to be able to fix this quickly. And so you've got to be able to have those extra resources in place and to be able to pull them in. The other piece of this is going to be leadership buy-in. If leaders aren't committed to the change, it's going to be difficult for the organization to succeed. Now, I'm not talking about the person who wants the project to happen. They're on board. But you know what I'm saying? You want all the other leaders that are in that organization not to say something negative about it, but to be on board as well so that everybody's driving toward the same goal. And then cultural barriers. Organizational culture may resist change if it conflicts with the established values or established practices. Change sometimes will change the culture of the organization. If you're going from a strong control, top down, management calls every shot to a more team oriented, the team is giving more input, making more decisions, it will speed things up in your organization. But you can see why that shift might be something that management might not like. And so you've got to have management on board with those things. And so they aren't bad people, but the culture is going to be different. They can't trump everything, or you're not going to have the team make decisions. So the cultural changes are going to be very, very important there. And then projects and change themselves. Change is the new direction, regardless of whether it's part of a plan, regulatory, or crisis. We are in a state of change with everything. Just flip on the TV and you're hearing all the sweeping changes across government right now. Regardless of what side you're on, doesn't matter. The point is everybody's in the same boat. The changes are sweeping across. Projects are the tool that people are using to move sections of the organization from one state to another state. And that's why you as a project manager, you are going to be involved in these type of changes for changing the organization overall, and especially bringing in that new technology. So if you're not on an AI project right now, go ahead and start learning some stuff about this, because eventually you're going to be on one. And so you want to be able to have a general idea, because it's going to help you in asking questions. You're going to ask better questions when you get on that project. All right, so let me bring this to a close with us today. And so let me talk about some webinars that we've got coming up. Next month, we're going to be talking about managing multi-project environments, how to avoid overload and burnout. And so our slogan is going to be get on medication early. No, I'm playing with you, but it's a challenge when you've got a lot of things on your plate. And then in May, we're going to be talking about project portfolio management, maximizing return on investment, effective prioritization. This was actually suggested to us by one of our clients, and so they were talking about portfolio, and so this seems to have become a topic that more and more people are looking at, because once again, the lineage that we were talking about. Then in June, we're talking about building the proper foundation for artificial intelligence in the organization, and so we will give the whole hour to talking about how to bring AI in, how to be able to structure some things, what are some potential challenges that you'll have with artificial intelligence. And so if you've got a team and you're looking at some of this, and try to get them to be part of the webinar so that they can hear some of those things. And then in July, we're going to talk about lean project management, eliminating waste, increasing value. You're starting to see, as many of you are already doing, you're bringing Lean Six Sigma together with project management. And so you're seeing them kind of interwoven together, which is kind of interesting as you do your projects. And so this is a much more on efficiency, and you're allowing project management to be flavored by Lean Six Sigma. Hybrid project management. We've got a public class coming up in May, and so if you'd like to be part of this is where we talk about blending the two of waterfall and agile. Many of you are running hybrid projects right now. We're going to talk about how to do it more on purpose rather than happenstance, and some things to watch out for. So that will be happening in May. And then we have a public PMI ACP. Some of you have been calling last year asking about an Agile certified professional. And so we had put it off, and so we decided this year we are going to run one in May 5 through 8. And so it is PMI ACP, that's your Agile certified professional. We'll be using PMI material for this, that they have just rolled out new material for this. And so we'll be teaching it May 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And so we'll have a guarantee for that as well. So if you're interested in the ACP, this will be a great time to do it. We will run these probably only once a year, because it's just not as big a pool of people. So if you've been thinking about this, jump on board. And then we've got a public AI class. This is a 3-day class. 2 days are live, virtual. It's going to be live, virtual instructor led. And then the third day is self-paced. And so the third day is on advanced prompt writing. And so you'll have self-paced for several weeks to be able to go through that one day. So we'll do 2 live, and then the third one, you'll just be able to jump on and off and watch it as you'd like. And so that's going to be on AI. And so you'll be able to experiment with some stuff. We'll play with some stuff. It's pretty fascinating if you've never done anything with that. So that's going to be May 21, 22. And then the third day is versatile. So you can jump on and off all you want in that third day. And then we have our 2025 PMP exam mastermind. For those of you who don't know, mastermind is free. And so Mastermind, we help people start looking at their application, getting the right verbiage down. Start getting them thinking about the PMP and looking at some of the challenges. We've got some PMP practice tests on there for people to start experimenting with, some videos of how to bring all of your documentation together so you're ready to do it. We've got one in May, and then we've got another one in September. So anybody can be part of this. Even if you don't take us as a boot camp provider, you can be on in here and start getting some of your stuff together. It's all free, and it's 5 days long. And so you're not there all 5 days. You're tapping in those 5 days and listening to some videos, making some adjustments. And so it's up to you when you tap in. But we have it 2 more this year, one in May and one in September. And then our boot camps, we'll do virtual instructor-led boot camps. We're running about 97% first-time passing rate right now. And so we have one in April, June. We do about every other month. And so if you'd be interested jumping into this, getting your PMP and getting it behind you, this is a perfect time. We are an ATP, so we're one of 600 in the world, and we will be using the PMI material, and the material is excellent that they've rolled out for this. And so it'll be excellent for you. And then if I can help you in any way or just chat with you about anything, there's our contact number and our website. I'll be glad to do that. So let me thank you so much for being here. Let me thank you so much for taking time and being part of the webinar and signing up month after month after month. I hope I'm giving you new ideas, new things to think about. And that's our goal, is to do that and just stay connected with our client base. We've been so blessed in 32 years of doing projects. And so many of you I've eaten lunch with, and some of you, it's even turned from just being client to friendship, and I appreciate that. That's been fun. That's what I love the most anyway. So anyway, let me thank you so much and get you out of here, and I'll see you next month, okay? Bye, everybody. Thanks for being on here. Have a great week. Bye.